Hi everyone, welcome back to Ninetale Hobbies. We're going to be covering the new Hivelord's faction guide in this and comparing it to the Infesters. While this is new units and has a couple of new rules and everything, you still can play the Infesters with the old rules and everything. The only thing that you can take in the Infesters that you can't take with the Hivelords are the clones, but they do get replaced in a certain type of way. But let's just jump straight into it. So we've got our cover, and of course the lovely art written by Anthony and Stephen Remington. He does some great stories and everything. So you've got your intro, and then we've got all the different bios on the new Hivelords, the new units and everything that have changed. We've got the old units. And then we've got some lovely new art. I love how evocative this new picture is. It's so good. And then we've got the Hivelord Faction rules. So this is when you're running straight up, only Hivelords, Mindless Beast. This one is awesome. All units that have a super ability have the Ultimate Martial Warriors special rule, and that allows you once per turn to use your super ability. So all of these characters that have air support and everything, you can just be moving all over the board. I mean, you still have to worry about energy and everything, but this is a super cool ability. Also, Circuit Virus. Circuit Virus costs 2 energy points and 1 activation to perform, and once activated, the player gets 1 shield dice worth of infected to place on the table up to 15 inches from the unit that activated this super ability. They may not be placed in base to base, and if the unit is destroyed, everything that created it, everything else is destroyed as well, all the infected. So you are going to be able to zerg the board like crazy. This is really cool. They are now the mass army, the undead hordes coming at you and everything. And while this sounds like super crazy powerful and everything, and it is very useful, I mean, remember, it's 2 energy, it does cost an activation, and the infected are not very powerful. So we're going to get into the stat cards, and what I'm actually going to do is compare how they change to the old ones. All right, so first off, we have the Queen. Her stat line, cost, everything is exactly the same, except she has Circuit Virus. So with the Mindless Beast, she can do that once per turn. She also has air support, so you can be zooming around with her with an SR2. She might be my favorite. I don't know if it's the aesthetic or what of her. I just really dig her, even though she is really expensive. Next, we're going to do Maggot, who, again, like the Queen, is exactly the same stat-wise, except he has Maggot Lord, which pretty much says that when Maggot is destroyed, all the larvae and hatchlings and everything are destroyed along with him. All of the larvae also have the same exact stat lines, but we do have a new unit, Hatchlings. Hatchlings cost 5. They give you 1 energy, SR of 10, movement of 5, no ranged attack, close combat of 3, shields of 3, and HP of 4. They do have combat scimitar, which is really nice when they're in melee. They're efficient, so they get that free move. And Maggotkin, they can only be taken if you have Maggot in your forces, which is cool. And then Obscure gives them that extra shield dice when they're trying to get in range. So they're pretty nice as an extra fill-in unit. Let's go ahead and cover the new units as well. Mothrock, one of the new Hivelords, costs 18, 3 energy points, SR of 1, so super fast with a movement of 10 as well. Ranged combat of 3, close combat of 3, 3 shields, 9 health, and air support. Has Swarmlord. If this unit's in your force, then any number of buzzers and swarms may be taken in the same force, and when Mothrock dies, they take a critical die of damage. And then Mind Control, which is one of my favorite abilities in the game. When you damage a unit, you roll a shield die, and they lose that many shields for the rest of the game, which is awesome. Crazy powerful if you can get an attack in. We got buzzers, which are new. They cost 4. They give you 1 energy, SR of 3, movement of 8, no range combat, close combat of 2, 2 shields, 3 health. They are efficient, so they could be potential batteries, and loyal until death, the Mothrock. So you can pretty much use this as a mobile shield, a health buffer for Mothrock. Everything. You are going to have to plan a little bit on your movement of trying to keep these together and everything, because they do have to be within 2 inches, but super cool. I like this. The swarm is exactly the same from previous. They do have the squadron rule and everything. Efficient. They are pretty fast with an SR of 2 and a movement of 8. So they're good objectives grabbers. They're good in a pinch if you need to get them into close combat. And then we have the Summoner. SR of 3, movement of 4, ranged of 0, close combat of 4, shields of 4, 10 health, which is nice. Does cost 20 points. Does give you 4 energy, though, which is very nice. It has Circuit Virus. This is your... If you want to play Swarm, Horde, crazy nonsense, this is your dude. He's got Force Field. If someone's boosting their shields and they're within 10, you can give them 2 extra free shield dice. You can only use that once per game, though, but it is potentially a lifesaver. And then you have Power Core. This unit may use a super ability once per activation, not per turn, per activation. So you can use Circuit Virus if you have the energy twice. You can use both of your activations of the Summoner to summon more Infected, which are right beside the Summoner's card. They don't have a cost. You can't take them in your army initially. They do give 0 energy, SR of 10, so they're going to be going last. Movement of 6, no ranged attack, close combat of 2, shields of 2, and 3 hit points. So they're not very powerful, but you can put a lot on the field. Dead circuits, they can't claim objectives, so all they are attackers, defenders, possible movement blockers. And Infected, they get 2 free activations per turn, and you can't boost them or anything, so you're just rolling straight on their thing. So these are your zombies. These are your skeletons, your hordes, and everything. And if we compare them to the old clones, I mean, honestly, they're pretty much the exact same thing in a lot of ways, except you could take them with your initial force and everything. So, I mean, I think the Infected overall are better. And then all of the original bots, they're pretty much exactly the same. Roach has 1 more movement added on, which is nice, to 8, especially since they have Air Sport and Regenerate. Mantis as well has 1 additional movement. Weevil and Locust as well have an additional movement. Termite is the only one that has a major change to them. On top of the additional movement that they got, they used to have air support with advanced deployment. They now have Tunneler with armored might. So it makes it a bit more interesting as to how you want to deploy them versus how they get stuck in. So I think this gives Termite quite a large difference in their playstyle. Now let's look at the upgrades. Originally, the Infestors only had 3 types of upgrades. They had Feeding Frenzy, which was, if this model destroys an enemy, they get 2 free energy cubes, which is cool. They could get the Resurrection special ability, which was also very cool. And then Eternal Hunger, this model has the Energy Drain special rule. So while all those were pretty cool, I'm glad that there are quite a few new ones. We've got Summon Infected, which pretty much gives a free circuit virus for a turn. It's only usable once per game, but it is really useful if you want to get stuff on the board quickly, or you need it like right in a pivotal moment if you need some more units on the board. Death from Below gives all hatchling and larva the tunneler special rule. I have a love-hate relationship with the tunneler rule. It's very cool, it's very thematic, I enjoy what it does, but that 50-50 chance, it is super hard to coordinate when you're going to get on the board and when you're not, and what you're going to do. I do wish there was a universal upgrade that was just like tunnelers in general, 3 points, 5 points, whatever, and it's like your tunneler comes up on a 3+ or a 2+. I know 2 would be pretty powerful, but even if it was like a 3+, that would give you that just extra little pushover, and I would use it more often. But while I like this upgrade, I personally am iffy on the tunneler rule. I do like it on Maggot because he can be a big giant delivery system, and since he can host all those units and everything and drop them off, I think it works better with him. Then we've got Consume, 4 points. Use any time during a unit's own activation. This upgrade can only be taken on 50mm bases or larger, so some of your generals or bigger units. And pretty much anything that's on a 32mm base or smaller, you destroy it if they're within 3 inches, and you get 1 critical die worth of hit points and 1 shield dice worth of pink energy. You can only use it once, but this kind of feels like Adrenaline Light in a lot of ways. I mean, you do have to sacrifice one of your minis that's on the board. Some of your Infected or whatever would be a great use for this. I really like this ability. It's very, very thematic for the Infestors. Infest. This is a super cool ability. I like the design space of this a lot. If a unit causes damage on an enemy unit with a ranged attack in its first activation, then it may use its second activation to make a ranged attack from the damaged target using the target's line of sight and ranged attack stat. The unit with this upgrade can still pay the energy as normal, but it may boost the attack as normal, but the ranged attack will be made from the previously damaged target unit. So pretty much you take your first activation, attack somebody, attack an enemy. If they get damaged, you can then use them as the line of sight for your next attack, along with the range and everything. This is a very cool ability. This can change a lot of different things. Units that are hiding, maybe trying to get into close combat, maybe holding an objective that you can't get to. There are quite a few stipulations on this, which I think give it balance. I mean, 5 points is a decent chunk of change when you're building your army. I mean, it's not huge, but it's still a good amount. But it does have to be your first activation. You do have to damage, and then you still have to have energy to attack, boost, do anything like that on the next attack. So, while potentially very powerful, I think that the stipulations do give this balance. Now, if you had something like this in the Red Cannoneers, then that would be just absolutely insane. And then the last upgrade, Extra Sustenance, 4 points. This upgrade adds 1 pink energy point to the pool. If the unit with this upgrade is destroyed, you lose that energy. It pretty much helps a fairly energy-starved faction just get that little extra boost. I think that's what really balances out the Infestors, is they've got all these units. You can zerg the board. You've got these hordes of undead bots coming in. Their energy is where they're lacking. This is what they have to make up for. But finishing out the rest of the book, we get a lovely story by Mr. Remington. Always cool. Love the art. love the new models. They look super duper cool. I like the repose on the swarm for the buzzers, just like the dynamic of it. But yeah, that's the new Hivelords book. I hope this maybe nudge someone that was kind of iffy if they were gonna get it in the right direction. The original Infesters are still viable as a faction. The Hivelords just kind of add a bit. They add quite a bit. If you want to run the Infected instead of clones, which I don't see why you wouldn't, especially with the Mindless Beast rule, which is awesome, I highly recommend them.